Joan Park hated June, not because of Pride Month, not because of rainbow banners hanging across campus, or glitter painted on cafe windows, or couples walking hand in hand beneath strings of colored lights. No, June hated June because it reminded him of everything he refused to be: open, honest, seen. At 21, June had perfected invisibility. He wore black hoodies even in summer heat, sat in the back of lecture halls, avoided parties, and answered conversations with one-word replies sharp enough to end them quickly. Nobody questioned him anymore. Nobody tried getting close, and that was exactly how he liked it. Or at least, that's what he kept telling himself. Until the Pride Festival committee kidnapped him. Technically. You signed the volunteer sheet. I signed the tutoring sheet. The girl squinted at the clipboard. Oh, June stared. She stared back. Then she shoved a box of rainbow flags into his arms anyway. Well, too late now. June nearly walked away. He should have. Instead, he found himself dragged across campus beneath hanging streamers while students painted murals and blasted music from portable speakers. Everything was loud, bright, alive. June already wanted to go home. Then someone crashed directly into him. The box slipped from his hands. Flags exploded everywhere. Oh no, sorry. June looked up and forgot how to breathe. The guy kneeling beside him had silver rings on his fingers, messy dark curls falling into warm brown eyes, and a smile bright enough to rival the sunlight itself. He laughed while grabbing fallen flags. Okay, dramatic first meeting. My fault. June blinked. Meeting? The stranger grinned. You looked at me like we were destined lovers. June's ears burned instantly. I did not. You totally did. He held out a hand. I'm Eli. June stared at the hand for a second too long before quietly answering. June. Eli smiled wider, and somehow that felt dangerous. June learned very quickly that Eli knew everyone. Everywhere they walked, someone waved at him. He hugged people easily, talked easily, laughed easily. It was honestly irritating. June carried boxes in silence while Eli walked beside him, rambling endlessly. So what's your tragic backstory? I don't have one. Everyone has one. I'm allergic to extroverts. That's not tragic. That's homophobic against me personally. June accidentally snorted. Eli froze dramatically. Oh my God. June immediately stopped smiling. Too late. Eli pointed at him like he'd discovered treasure. You smile. I don't. You literally just did. You hallucinated. Eli grinned slowly. Cute. June almost dropped another box. Over the next week, Eli somehow became unavoidable. He appeared beside June during lunch, sat next to him during lectures despite arriving late every single time, dragged him to Pride Month planning meetings. June didn't understand it. Someone like Eli should have surrounded himself with people brighter, louder, prettier, not someone like June. Yet Eli stayed, again and again, like he wanted to, and that terrified June more than anything. One night after decorating the student center, rain began pouring outside. Everyone else ran off in groups. June stood beneath the awning, waiting for the storm to pass. Eli appeared beside him, holding 2 iced coffees. You hate socializing so much you stayed behind on purpose? June accepted the drink quietly. Maybe. Eli leaned against the railing. The neon campus lights reflected across puddles below them in shimmering rainbow colors. For once, Ellie looked calm. Not loud. Not joking. Just real. You know, Eli said softly, you look sad a lot. June stiffened. I'm not. You are. Silence stretched between them. Rain hammered the pavement. June looked away first. My parents don't know. Eli didn't interrupt, didn't push. So June kept talking. They keep asking when I'll get a girlfriend. My mom sends me pictures of daughters from church friends. He laughed bitterly. I think they already know. They just don't want it to be true. Eli's expression softened. That sucks. June swallowed hard. I spent years pretending. It gets exhausting. Eli stepped closer then. Not enough to overwhelm, just enough to be there. You don't have to pretend around me. The words hit June harder than they should have, because nobody had ever said that before. Not once. After that night, everything changed. June started waiting for Eli between classes, started texting him first, started smiling more. And Eli noticed every single time. "Look at you," Eli teased one afternoon. "Growing emotions." June rolled his eyes. "You're annoying. You like me." June opened his mouth to deny it, then paused. Because, well, he did. A lot. And judging by the way Eli looked at him lately, the feeling wasn't exactly one-sided. The Pride Festival arrived glowing with music, lights, and thousands of colors dancing beneath the night sky. June almost didn't go. Crowds still made him nervous. Being seen still scared him, but Eli texted him 3 words: "Please come tonight." So June went and found Eli standing near the stage in a black button-up covered in tiny rainbow embroidery. He looked unfairly beautiful. Eli smiled the second he saw him. "You came." June's chest felt warm. "Yeah." Music thundered around them while students danced nearby. Then Eli suddenly held out his hand. "Dance with me." June stared at it. "I can't dance." "Neither can I." "That's objectively false." Eli laughed softly. "June." Something in his voice made June's heart stutter. "You spend so much time hiding," Eli whispered. "Just tonight. Let yourself exist." June looked at the lights, the flags, the couples, the joy. Then finally he took Eli's hand, and for the first time in his life, he stopped caring who saw. Hours later, they escaped to the quieter rooftop above the student center. Music echoed faintly below. Wind brushed gently through June's hair. Eli leaned beside him against the railing. "You know," Eli murmured, "I've wanted to kiss you for like 3 weeks." June nearly choked. 3, maybe 4. "You're insane." "Probably." June laughed quietly. Then Eli's smile faded into something softer, more nervous. "Can I?" June's heartbeat thundered painfully, but this time he didn't hide from it. He stepped forward first and kissed Eli beneath a sky glowing with pride fireworks. Warm hands, shaky laughter, neon colors bursting overhead. June smiled into the kiss. A real smile this time. Not hidden, not denied, free. And somewhere below them, the city celebrated Pride Month in brilliant color. But up on that rooftop, June thought maybe love itself was the brightest thing of all. The kiss ruined June's life. Not in a bad way. Actually, that was the problem, because now every time he looked at Eli, he remembered warm lips, soft laughter, fireworks exploding overhead, and Eli smiling against his mouth like June was something precious. It was unbearable. June sat in lecture trying to focus on economics, while Eli, sitting beside him, casually tapped his sneaker against June's under the desk. June nearly combusted. "You're blushing again," Eli whispered. "I hate you." "You kissed me first." June stared straight ahead. "Professor Kim is looking at us." Eli leaned closer anyway. "You still haven't officially agreed to date me." June's pen snapped in half. By lunchtime, rumors had already started spreading across campus. Not cruel ones, just loud ones. Apparently multiple people had seen June and Eli kissing on the rooftop after the fireworks. June wanted to crawl into the ocean. Meanwhile, Eli looked delighted. "People think we're cute. They need hobbies. You're holding my hand under the table right now." June immediately let go. Eli laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. That evening, Eli dragged June downtown to the city's nighttime pride market. Rainbow lanterns hung across streets. Local artists sold handmade jewelry, paintings, pride pins, and food beneath glowing neon signs. Everything shimmered with color. June usually hated crowds, but with Eli beside him, it somehow felt easier. Safer. Eli stopped at a booth selling tiny matching bracelets. "Oh my God!" June instantly narrowed his eyes. "No. Yes. No." 5 minutes later, Jun was wearing a black bracelet with a tiny silver heart charm. Eli wore the matching one proudly. Jun pretended not to notice how happy that made him. While walking past a street musician, Eli suddenly grabbed Jun's wrist. "Wait, what?" Eli pointed toward a photo booth glowing pink and blue beneath fairy lights. Jun already knew where this was going. "No. Please. No." "Jun. No!" 10 minutes later, they were squeezed together inside the tiny booth. Jun looked deeply unhappy. Eli looked thrilled. The camera flashed. First picture, Jun glaring. Second picture, Eli kissing Jun's cheek unexpectedly. Third picture, Jun accidentally smiling. Fourth picture, Eli looked at him softly and whispered, "You're really pretty, you know." Jun's entire brain stopped functioning right before the flash captured him, staring at Eli like he was in love, which unfortunately he probably was. Jun tried not to think about love. He failed horribly. Because Eli made everything feel dangerously easy. Texting until 2 a.m., sharing earbuds during train rides, walking home together after classes. Jun had spent years convincing himself love would always feel terrifying. But with Ali it felt warm, like sunlight through open windows, which honestly made it scarier. One afternoon, Eli invited Jun to meet his friends. Jun almost said no immediately. "Relax," Eli laughed while dragging him toward the student union. "They already know about you." "That's exactly why I'm nervous." Inside, a group of students immediately turned toward them. A girl with pink braids gasped dramatically. "Oh my God, the boyfriend!" Jun nearly turned around. Eli grabbed the back of his hoodie before he could escape. "Too late." Another guy leaned forward curiously. "You're quieter than I expected." Jun deadpanned. "Thanks." Eli dropped into the seat beside him, naturally close. Like touching Jun had already become instinct. And maybe it had, because Jun didn't pull away once. Later, while everyone argued over pizza toppings, Eli rested his head briefly against Jun's shoulder. Such a tiny thing. So casual. But Jun froze anyway. Nobody had ever loved him publicly before. Nobody had ever acted like being near him was easy, wanted, normal. Eli glanced up. "You okay?" Jun swallowed hard. "Yeah." Eli smiled softly. Jun realized that he could get addicted to this. Jun's mother called Sunday morning, and suddenly the world felt heavy again. "Are you eating properly?" "Yes." "You sound tired." "I'm fine." Then came the question Jun dreaded every single time. "Any nice girls lately?" Jun stared silently at the wall. Across his dorm room, Eli looked up immediately from where he was sprawled across the bed, stealing Jun's snacks. Jun forced out a weak laugh. "Not really." His mother sighed. "You work too much. You need someone to take care of you." Jun's throat tightened painfully, because technically he already had someone. Someone who remembered his coffee order. Someone who walked him home at night. Someone who kissed him gently when Jun got overwhelmed. But he couldn't say that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. After the call ended, silence filled the room. Eli sat up slowly. "You don't have to tell them until you're ready." Jun looked away. "What if I'm never ready?" Eli's expression softened immediately. He moved closer carefully. "Then I'll still stay." Jun looked at him then. Really looked at him. And God, that scared him most of all, because Eli meant it. The first time Eli slept over, officially, nothing happened. Well, nothing dramatic, no huge confession, no movie scene moment. Just soft music playing quietly while rain tapped against the dorm windows. Jun studied at his desk, while Eli lay upside down across the bed scrolling through his phone. "You're staring again," Jun muttered. "You're pretty when you concentrate." Jun rolled his eyes. "You flirt constantly. And you secretly like it." Unfortunately true. Hours later, Jun finally closed his laptop with a groan. "I'm done." Eli immediately opened his arms dramatically. "Come here." Jun stared. "You're ridiculous." "Correct." Still, Jun crawled onto the bed anyway. Eli wrapped both arms around him instantly like it was the most natural thing in the world. Warm, comfortable, safe. Jun rested quietly against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Then Eli whispered softly into his hair, "You know I really like you, right?" Jun's chest ached unexpectedly, because nobody had ever said it so gently before. "I really like you too." Eli smiled against his forehead, and neither of them let go for a very long time. The problem with dating Eli was that Eli loved physical affection, constantly. Jun had never experienced this level of clinginess before in his life. Eli held his hand everywhere, rested his chin on Jun's shoulder during lectures, played with Jun's fingers while talking, and whenever Jun got embarrassed, Ellie got worse on purpose. "You're cute when flustered." "You say that every hour." "Because it remains true every hour." Jun buried his face in his hoodie. Eli laughed brightly beside him. One evening, they ended up studying together in the library. Or at least Jun studied. Eli mostly stared at him lovingly like an idiot. "Can you stop?" "No. You're distracting. You're beautiful." Jun kicked his chair lightly under the table. Eli grinned shamelessly. Then suddenly, the library lights flickered. A storm rumbled outside. Students groaned as thunder cracked overhead. John flinched slightly before he could stop himself. Eli noticed immediately. "You scared of storms?" "Maybe." Without hesitation, Eli slid their chairs closer together beneath the table until their knees touched. "There." Jun blinked. "What's there?" "You can steal my bravery." Jun stared at him for a second, then laughed quietly. Soft, real. Eli looked completely love-struck afterward. Jun realized he was in serious trouble the moment he started craving kisses. Not just wanting them, craving them, especially the small ones. Forehead kisses, temple kisses. The sleepy kisses Eli gave him absent-mindedly between conversations. Jun used to think romance was dramatic. Instead, it turned out to be Eli pushing hair away from his face while asking, "You eat today?" which honestly felt way more dangerous. That Friday, Eli dragged Jun to karaoke with friends. Jun absolutely refused to sing, until Eli grabbed the second microphone. "If you don't sing with me," Eli declared dramatically, "I'll sing a breakup song alone." "We're not breaking up." "So you admit we're dating." Jun realized too late he'd trapped himself. The entire room screamed triumphantly. Jun wanted death. Eventually, Eli convinced him to sing anyway. It was terrible. Neither of them knew the lyrics. They spent half the song laughing instead of singing, and halfway through, Ellie looked at Jun with so much warmth it almost hurt. Jun forgot the music completely. Forgot everyone else existed. There was only Eli. Eli smiling at him beneath flashing neon lights. Again, always neon lights. Like the universe itself kept painting their story in color. The first argument happened unexpectedly and stupidly. Jun canceled dinner plans, again. Eli tried pretending it didn't bother him. Failed horribly. "You've canceled 3 times this week." "I'm busy." "You're avoiding me." Jun stiffened instantly. "I'm not." "You disappear whenever things get serious." The words hit harder than Eli intended. Jun's expression closed off immediately. Eli noticed too late. "Jun." "I said I'm busy." Then Jun walked away, and for the first time since meeting Ellie, he didn't answer his texts that night. Jun hated fighting, especially because deep down he knew Eli was right. Things had gotten serious, too serious. Jun loved him now, fully, terrifyingly, and part of him still feared losing everything if people found out, if his parents found out, if the wrong person saw them. Love still felt dangerous sometimes, even during Pride Month, even surrounded by acceptance. Fear didn't disappear overnight. Around midnight, there was suddenly knocking at Jun's dorm door. Jun opened it slowly. Eli stood there, soaked from rain. Holding convenience store snacks? Jun stared. "You walked here in a storm?" "You ignored me." Jun tried not to smile. Failed. Eli sighed softly. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have pushed. Jun looked down quietly. You were right, though. Eli stepped closer carefully. You don't have to be fearless all the time, Jun. Jun's chest tightened painfully. Because Eli always saw right through him and somehow stayed anyway. The rain never stopped that night. Neither did the honesty. Jun and Eli sat on the dorm floor sharing chips while thunder echoed outside. For once, Jun talked openly about everything, about middle school bullying, about hiding crushes, about deleting texts before anyone could see them, about learning how to make himself smaller, quieter, safer. Eli listened silently the entire time. No interruptions, no jokes, just listening. When Jun finally finished, the room stayed quiet for a while. Then Eli reached over and intertwined their fingers gently. You deserve better than that. Jun laughed weakly. Maybe. No, Eli said firmly. Definitely. Something inside Jun cracked a little at those words. Not painfully, more like healing. Slowly, carefully. Like broken glass being replaced with light. At some point, Jun fell asleep against Eli's shoulder. He woke later, half covered by a blanket. Eli was still awake beside him, scrolling through his phone quietly. You should sleep, Jun mumbled. Eli glanced over. You drool a little when you sleep. Jun sat up, instantly horrified. I do not. Eli burst out laughing. Jun shoved him backward onto the floor. Their laughter filled the room loudly enough to drown out the storm outside, and somewhere between teasing, warmth, and sleepy kisses. Jun realized something important. For the first time in his life, loving someone didn't feel like hiding. It felt like finally being found. By July, campus had grown quieter. Pride banners slowly disappeared from windows. Festival booths vanished. Summer classes replaced crowded hallways. But Eli still looked at Jun the same way, like nothing bright had ended at all. You're staring again, Jun muttered one afternoon. Eli sat across from him at a cafe downtown, chin resting in his hand. You're wearing my hoodie. Jun glanced down. And you voluntarily stole my clothes. That's basically a marriage proposal. Jun nearly choked on his drink. You're insane. You like me anyway. Unfortunately, that remained true. Very true. Painfully true. Later that evening, they wandered through the city while warm summer rain misted softly around them. Streetlights reflected gold across wet pavement. Eli suddenly stopped walking. Jun turned. What? Eli looked oddly nervous for once, which immediately worried Jun. I want to ask you something. Okay? Eli rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. My friends are throwing a beach trip before summer ends. He hesitated. I want you to come. John blinked. That's it? That's not it. Eli looked at him carefully. It's kind of a big thing for me. Jun's chest softened instantly. Because Eli wasn't asking for a trip. He was asking Jun to stay part of his life beyond campus, beyond Pride Month, beyond temporary. Jun stepped closer quietly. I'll go. Eli smiled so brightly it nearly ruined Jun on the spot. The beach house was chaos, absolute chaos. Music, grills smoking outside, people yelling over card games, someone almost setting chips on fire. Jun stood frozen near the doorway, questioning every life decision he'd ever made. Eli appeared behind him immediately. Overwhelmed? A little. Without hesitation, Eli laced their fingers together. And just like that, the panic eased. The ocean stretched endlessly beyond the house. Blue skies, warm wind, golden sunlight dancing across waves. Jun hadn't realized how badly he needed this. Needed peace, needed joy without fear attached to it. At sunset, everyone rushed toward the beach. Someone started lighting sparklers. Another group dragged speakers outside. Eli pulled Jun closer by the wrist. Come on, Jun laughed softly. You drag me everywhere. And yet you always follow. Because it was Eli. Because Jun always would. That night they sat together away from the others near the shoreline. Waves crashed softly nearby. Eli leaned back against the sand with June curled against his side. You know, Eli murmured, I think you smile more now. June looked down quietly. Do I? Yeah. Eli brushed their fingers together gently. You used to look lonely all the time. June's throat tightened unexpectedly, because maybe he had been. For years, even in crowded rooms, even surrounded by people. Then Eli came crashing into his life carrying rainbow flags and too much sunlight. And somehow June stopped feeling alone. I love you. The words slipped out before June could stop them. Silence. Then Eli slowly turned toward him, eyes wide. You do? June immediately wanted to drown in the ocean. I wasn't supposed to say it like that. Eli suddenly laughed. Not mocking, just soft and disbelieving and happy. Then he grabbed June's face gently and kissed him hard enough to steal every remaining thought from his brain. When they finally pulled apart, Ellie rested their foreheads together. I love you too. June smiled so hard his cheeks hurt, and for once he didn't try hiding it. June told his sister first, mostly because she was terrifyingly observant. They were eating dinner together during break when she suddenly narrowed her eyes. You're glowing! June almost dropped his chopsticks. What? You have a boyfriend. June stared at her in horror. How do you know? She looked deeply offended. You smile at your phone like an idiot. John buried his face in his hands immediately. His sister burst out laughing. Oh my God, you really are in love, John groaned dramatically. Please stop talking. Instead, she reached across the table quietly. You look happier lately. June froze slightly, then looked up. Her expression softened. I'm glad. And just like that, some of the fear inside him loosened. A week later, Eli invited June to another Pride event downtown. Not a giant festival this time. Smaller, softer, an evening community gathering with lights hanging through trees and local queer artists performing music. June almost didn't notice at first how nervous Eli seemed, until Eli stopped walking beneath glowing lantern lights. June. Something about his voice made June's heartbeat speed up. Eli swallowed once, then carefully pulled something from his pocket. The photo strip from the booth, their first pictures together. June blinked in surprise. You kept it? Obviously. Eli smiled nervously, then flipped it over. Written on the back, in messy handwriting, were the words, Thank you for letting yourself be loved. June's vision blurred instantly. You're unfair, he whispered weakly. Eli laughed softly. Then his expression turned serious again. I know things are still scary sometimes. He reached for June's hand carefully. But I want you to know something. Lantern light reflected warmly in his eyes. You never have to earn love by hiding parts of yourself. June felt his chest ache painfully, because nobody had ever loved him this gently before. Nobody. And suddenly he was crying. Actually crying. Eli panicked immediately. Oh God, was this too emotional? June kissed him before he could continue, right there beneath glowing pride lanterns and soft music and summer wind. And Eli kissed him back like he was something worth celebrating. August arrived quietly. Summer began ending. Campus would soon fill again. Life would keep moving. But some things had changed forever. June stood in front of the bathroom mirror staring at his phone. 3 unread messages from his mother. His heartbeat pounded painfully. Eli sat nearby on the dorm bed, watching him carefully. You don't have to do it today. June inhaled slowly, then shook his head. No. His voice trembled slightly. I think I do. Fear still existed. Maybe it always would a little, but Eli had taught him something important these past months. Love wasn't supposed to feel like disappearing. So June finally called. The conversation wasn't perfect. There were long silences, confusion, questions. His mother cried a little. June almost hung up twice. But then, she said softly, I just want you to be happy. And June broke down crying immediately. Not because everything was magically fixed, not because fear vanished instantly, but because for the first time hope existed where terror used to live. Later that night, Eli found June sitting alone outside the student center beneath strings of leftover rainbow lights. June looked up quietly. I did it! Eli's expression softened instantly. And? June laughed shakily through tears. I think it'll be okay. Eli crossed the distance between them immediately and wrapped both arms around him tightly. June held him back just as hard. People walked past nearby. Cars moved through glowing streets. Music drifted softly from somewhere downtown, and for once, June didn't care who saw them. Hey, Eli whispered against his hair. Yeah? You know what my favorite thing about Pride Month is? June smiled faintly. What? Eli pulled back just enough to look at him properly. It reminds people they deserve to exist loudly. June stared at him quietly, then leaned forward and kissed him beneath the rainbow lights one last time. Soft, certain, loved. And somewhere in the middle of neon nights, pride flags, summer storms, and stolen kisses, June finally understood something. Pride wasn't just celebration. It was survival. It was love refusing to hide. It was learning that being seen could be beautiful. And standing there wrapped in Eli's arms, June thought maybe his life had truly started the moment he stopped apologizing for who he was. The end.